What's up, everyone? The live-action adaptation of Dark Horse Comics' The Umbrella Academy has been on Netflix for a few weeks now, and we originally planned on posting this episode when the show first released, but unfortunately, I got the flu. During which time I was quarantined on a remote island, and there I was experimented on by a group of Google scientists, injected with an AI, and launched into an asteroid to test my new hybrid body against the most extreme conditions. But hey, I made it back, and today we're breaking down the history of The Umbrella Academy, so better late than never, am I right? Anyway, before we dive in, let's announce the 3 winners of our Miss Marvel Issue 1 giveaway with ComicTom's Mystery Mail Call. Our first winner is Alexander Knox, whose Instagram handle is Alexander_the Great. Our second winner is Diana Vargas, whose Twitter handle is DianaVA76401642. And there better be a good reason for that. And our third and final winner of Miss Marvel Issue 1 is Kevin Wright, whose Instagram is IBTheDifference. Congratulations to our 3 winners, Alexander, Diana, and Kevin, and thanks to everyone who participated. We'll have another awesome giveaway coming up, maybe even this weekend. You never know. Also, don't forget to check out ComicTom's YouTube channel and Mystery Mail Call subscription box. Both are great, and we'll have links for those in the description below. But with that covered, let's talk about The Umbrella Academy. Now, since this history of episode is focused on a team, I'm going to be doing things a little different, as talking about a team is more elaborate than just talking about a single character. So we're going to give you a brief rundown of how the team came together, and then go over each of the members of the team and what they're all about. So not drastically different from the way we do things, but rather modified. So let's roll that origins card. The Umbrella Academy was created by Gerard Way and drawn by Gabriel Ba, and debuted in September of 2007. Now, before I get into the team itself and its characters, one thing to know about the Umbrella Academy is the comic is broken up into 3 different 6-issue series. You have the first series titled The Umbrella Academy Apocalypse Suite, the second The Umbrella Academy Dallas, and the third The Umbrella Academy Hotel Oblivion. I kind of think of it like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Each series is just parts of a massive story. Anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way for anyone wondering why the Umbrella Academy technically has 3 different series. But now let's move on to how this team came together and what they're all about. The premise of the Umbrella Academy is as follows, and be warned, it's about to get trippy up in here. One day, a wrestler was wrestling an octopus-looking space alien, as wrestlers obviously tend to do, and defeated the alien with an atomic flying elbow. I personally would have used the phenomenal forearm.
There's another forearm. Styles off the top rope.
But hey, that's just me. Anyway, on the same day the alien was defeated, 47 extraordinary children were randomly born. I say randomly born because all the babies were born to mostly single women who had no signs prior of being pregnant. And I'm talking about they just started popping out babies wherever they were at the time. Most of the children were abandoned or put up for adoption, as the women were extremely freaked out and or traumatized, not knowing how the heck this even happened in the first place. After this, Sir Reginald Hargreaves boarded his ship with his bodyguard and set out to find as many of these children as he could. Unfortunately, he only found 7 of them. Remember how I said they were extraordinary children earlier but didn't say why? Well, they're extraordinary because they have superpowers, and when Sir Reginald adopted these 7 kids, he trained them to use their powers to save the world. Once adopted, Sir Reginald wiped the kids' identities and hid the children from the world. However, he did hold a press conference in Stockholm about it, where a journalist asked, "Why have you adopted these 7 kids?" To which he replied, "To save the world, of course." They then asked, "From what?" And they'd get their answer 10 years later. It's during this 10-year time jump the superpowered kids would make their debut when a sentient Eiffel Tower started killing people left and right by throwing its visitors off of it. Trust me guys, things are going to get even weirder, but who doesn't like a little bit of weird? With that said, number 3, aka the Rumor, got rid of the civilians. Then after punching their way through a part of the tower, it's revealed that number 1, aka Spaceboy's suspicions, was right. It was the robot zombie Gustav Eiffel who was behind the attacks and controlling the Eiffel Tower. So naturally, number 2, aka the Kraken, threw a knife into Gustav's head, which had him fall onto the launch button and blast the Eiffel Tower into space. At this point, Sir Reginald shows up, who the kids call Dad, which he hates by the way, and tells them that the Eiffel Tower isn't a monument, but rather a spaceship. He continues to say, "You lost the Eiffel Tower, but you saved Paris," which means the key to the city and ice cream. Spaceboy then tells Mr. Monocle, which is Sir Reginald's alias, that when he grows up, he wants to go to space, to which Monocle says, "And you shall, number 1. So you shall." The comic then jumps 20 years in the future, and boom, Spaceboy is on the moon. Looks like Monocle didn't lie. We also learned that at some point during this time jump, the team had disbanded. By the end of the first issue, Spaceboy returns to Earth and goes back to the Umbrella Academy, where he learns from Mr. Monocle's assistant, who is a genetically modified chimp named Mr. Pogo by the way, that Sir Reginald has died. And number 5, aka the boy, says, "And something worse is coming." As you would assume, this forces the disgruntled siblings to get the band back together, so to speak, to save the world once again. Now that's how the Umbrella Academy came together and what the premise of the book is all about. So now let's talk about the individual characters. There are 7 members to the team, and each of them was assigned a number and a codename. So I'm going to run through them in order, starting with Luther Hargreaves, aka Number 1, codename Spaceboy. Spaceboy is the leader of the team, and he is also the twin brother of Number 5, aka The Boy. He was given the codename Spaceboy because he was the youngest person to ever become an astronaut. Now, some of you may be asking, what the heck is up with his massive ape-like body? And the answer is, when he was involved in a mission to Mars that went terribly wrong, Hargreaves, in order to save his life, attached his head to the body of a Martian ape, because it was either that or put his head inside of a jar, like in Futurama. Anyway, this gave him all the abilities of a Martian ape, which I'll get into later. Next, we have Diego Hargreaves, aka Number 2, codename The Kraken. He's the Raphael or Jason Todd of the group. He's reckless and rebellious. The Monocle has even been quoted calling him an insolent brat. And much like Raph's relationship with Leo in the Ninja Turtles, the Kraken has a rivalry with the team's leader, Spaceboy, and hates taking orders from him. He's also kind of like a Batman Green Arrow vigilante type, where he's seen going on patrols in the city, taking down muggers and drug dealers. He's also missing his right eye, which is why the right eye is blacked out when he's wearing his mask. Moving on, we have Allison Hargreaves, aka Number 3, codename The Rumor. I don't want to get into her powers just yet, as that's a big part of who she is. She was also married and had a daughter, but they got a divorce and her husband got full custody of their daughter, which is also mentioned in the show. Her and Spaceboy would also end up having feelings for one another. They're the romance in the group, and she has a pretty awesome power, but again, we're going to get into that with powers and abilities. But we still have a bunch of other characters to talk about, so let's move on to Klaus Hargreaves, aka Number 4, codename The Seance. He's an alcoholic and uses a bunch of drugs, and before rejoining the Umbrella Academy after Hargreaves' death, he checked himself into a psychiatric hospital called Shiny View. And if you haven't noticed, he's a goth, almost always wearing black clothing. Don't know how relevant that is, but it's a thing, so I figured I'd mention it. Moving on, yet again, we have Number 5, codenamed The Boy. That's right, he just goes by the name The Boy. No real name. He disappeared at 10 years old and reappeared as his 10-year-old self 20 years in the future. The boy says that he has read accounts of the Academy's immediate future and their connection to the apocalypse. And as I mentioned earlier, he's the twin brother of Spaceboy. Another cool thing to know is that he revealed to the rumor that he was captured and modified by the surgeons of the Temps Aeternalis. They then proceeded to mix his strands of DNA with that of serial killers, making him the perfect killer who always kills his target. So that's kind of terrifying. Also, he's technically now a 60-year-old in a 10-year-old body, so we often see him drinking coffee and getting drunk. But on to the next member, which is Ben Hargreaves, aka Number 6, codename The Horror. He's dead, but no information regarding his death is given to us, although they all blame Spaceboy for his death. They even put a memorial statue of him in front of the Academy. As a child, however, he was the nicest of the siblings and always wanted to please his dad. His power is also pretty epic, but I'll get into that in powers and abilities. But that brings us to the last member of the team, and that's Vanya Hargreaves, aka Number 7, codenamed The White Violin. She's the youngest of the group, and her story is kind of tragic, as she has no powers unlike the rest of her siblings. Because of this, her father can be a bit cold to her, telling her she has no powers like her siblings and that she can barely play the violin. However, that's really just the beginning of her story. As we later learn, there's a much bigger reason that Mr. Monocle isolates her. But I'll get into that in powers and abilities as well. Anyway, those are the 7 members of the Umbrella Academy, but I'm sure some of you are wondering a little bit about Sir Reginald, aka Mr. Monocle, and the talking chimp, Dr. Pogo. Well, to put it simply, Dr. Reginald Hargreaves was a genius, mentor, and guardian to the Umbrella Academy. He's basically their Professor X. As for Pogo, or Dr. Pogo, Pogo was once a normal chimp until he was experimented on and his intelligence was boosted all Planet of the Apes style. As I mentioned before, he was the assistant to Mr. Monocle, and he's a friend of the Umbrella Academy. And that leads us to powers and abilities. But first, let's thank our beautiful sponsor peoples. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at Verve. We're always happy when Verve sponsors an episode because it's one of our favorite streaming platforms for geeky content. From anime to retro shows to awesome exclusive content, they've got it all, including Rooster Teeth's amazing new series, Genlock, which we are watching together weekly and discussing every Monday on Variant Live. If you haven't been watching along with us, I'm telling you, you want to jump on because this show is so good. And right now you can do just that by going to verve.co/variant or clicking the link in the description to get a free 30-day ad-free trial of Verve Premium. That's 30 days to watch Genlock with us for freezies, but also get tons of additional great content like Dragon Ball Super, My Hero Academia, Bravest Warriors, and Rooster Teeth's other anime, Ruby. As I mentioned before, Verve Premium also gives you unlimited access to a ton of additional content from channels like Crunchyroll, Cartoon Hangover, Nick Splat, High Dive, and Boomerang, just to name a few, all ad-free. You could also watch all your shows on the go without an internet connection. Get on it, my friends. Go to verve.co/variant or click the link in the description and get your free 30-day ad-free trial of Verve Premium now. Then download the Verve app on your iPhone, iPad, Android, Roku, or even your Xbox or PlayStation and start enjoying the goodness from anywhere. Sign up now and start watching Genlock with us. Then join us right here every single Monday to talk some geeky goodness. Let's go in the same order as we did with characters. First up, we have Spaceboy. His head was put on the body of a Martian ape, giving him all the abilities of one, mainly super strength and durability. He also has a life support system that doubles as a jetpack, and he's a great shot with his laser pistol. Next, we have the Kraken. He's capable of holding his breath for an unlimited amount of time. He's also an expert martial artist and knife thrower. Then we have Rumor. As I said earlier, she has one of the coolest powers on the team, if not the coolest, and most powerful. Whatever Rumor says becomes true, meaning she could alter reality just by saying something. So again, anything she says, reality will adjust to make it true. That's a pretty epic yet dangerous power. Moving along, we have the Seance. He could talk to and channel the dead. He has advanced telekinesis and can lift up to 40,000 tons with it. He can also project his spirit into other things. So all in all, he has some pretty cool powers. Then we have the Boy. He's able to travel to the future and can also simulate super speed by doing micro jumps. And like I said earlier, he's an extremely dangerous killer, as his DNA was fused with several of the world's most dangerous serial killers. Next up, we have Horror. Horror was able to channel interdimensional monsters through his body. They appeared as green tentacles of various lengths that emerged from his chest. And lastly, we have the White Violin. Now originally, like I said earlier, she had no powers, but eventually her powers were unlocked. Her power is through her music, which is highly destructive. With one note, she could rip someone in half. If she was to play a symphony, she could destroy the world. In the end, this once thought to be normal girl ended up being the most powerful of them all. But now that you know their powers, it's time for some reading recommendations. The reading recommendations for the Umbrella Academy are pretty simple. Read all 3 of their 6-issue series, which include the Umbrella Academy Apocalypse Suite, the Umbrella Academy Dallas, and the Umbrella Academy Hotel Oblivion. First up for Wednesday, March 13th, we have Red Hood Outlaw issue 32. After months on the road, Jason Todd has returned to Gotham City. Unfortunately for the Penguin, his first order of business is a hostile takeover of the Iceberg Lounge and Casino. Now we have Star Wars Age of Republic General Grievous issue 1. In his hunt to kill the Jedi, Grievous stumbles across a power greater than he imagined. Next we have Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider issue 6. After the life-changing events of Spider-Geddon, Gwen Stacy of Earth-65 has resolved to stay on her home turf and resume her normally scheduled superheroics as Ghost Spider. And finally, we have the Batman Who Laughs, the Grim Knight issue 1. In this one-shot, we learn more about the Grim Knight, the world's most dangerous vigilante. Batman with guns? I'm all in. And that's gonna bring another episode of Variant to a close, but remember to check out Verve, link for that is in the description below. You'll get a free 30-day ad-free trial, and then you can watch Genlock with us every Monday on Variant Live. But other than that, all our links for our social media are in the description, like our Twitter, our Facebook, our Instagram. But I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.